welcome everybody. I see a lot of new faces that I know are here because of Helen. So we're really glad you all are here. And anyway, I'm Phoebe Warren, if y'all are new. I'm at Unity. We love our Sunday school class. We have great connections. It's like you're welcome to come back anytime. Now, for those of people who aren't here all the time, this is Helen Racz, and I met Helen. She's been here before. I met her through my friend Alan, who's hiding back there behind a camera. Alan Anderson, he's a good friend, and somebody I'd like to get to Unity. And he knows Amber, so that's how I met Alan. But anyway, Helen, I'm going to let her do this in just a minute, but I just want to make sure everyone gets one of these. She's doing an event at Unity that she is generously donating most of the proceeds to Unity, and it's a tapping event, and it's going to be a workshop. You're going to get a lot. So it's going to be in the pyramid. We expect it to fill up, so I wouldn't wait too long to get your tickets. So, Helen, I'm going to let you tell everything else. Can you tell more about what you do? And
yes. So
it's kind of hard for me to explain.
It is. So the day in the pyramid, and this will tie into what we're working on today, it's actually not going to be a workshop. It's actually going to be a spiritual experience. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. I'll tie it in. Right now I'm at, I think, 12. I said the first 20 people, because I think that's all I can handle on Zoom. We'll get a follow-up Zoom of questions and more. So there's a few spots left if you want to go at that exchange. It will be streamed. You can buy video and audio if you're not going to be there, or if you are and want it after. So I'll tie it into what we're learning today as we go. And the other good news, kind of exciting news, is so I do have 3 books. The first class, everybody got a book, 3 different books, and it's my first book signing today. These 3 babies were all birthed and printed in March of 2020. So before we could set up any bookstores, the world shut down. So they have been in boxes until the last time I was here in January. So, and they do sell online, but that's not the same as seeing people touching them. It's really fun. So today, when Phoebe invited me, we were trying to figure out, well, what would be a good interest? And so we were working around the idea of stuckness. And so there is a recording of that first class. I didn't want to go over the whole thing again. I wanted to take us a little further. So there is one formula in this dimension. As long as you're in form on Earth, all things are created with this formula: belief, clarity, action, and consistency. And so whether you're stuck in creating something you want, or you feel stuck in spiritual growth, which can happen, and it's so frustrating, right? It's because somewhere you're dropping the ball here. Now, last time when we met, we talked about clarity. I use a process of what, why, how, and how successful. And we have a little cheat sheet for you on that. If you want it, we have them to hand out if you'd like it. So the clarity is a big one. So we had the most delightful gentleman, I wouldn't recognize him unless he sat in the same spot, who was talking about using this formula for what he didn't want. And I was like, oh, perfect. You're doing exactly not for the results that you would desire, right? And so that's when you're speaking a belief you no longer want, over and over and over, right? And then especially if you come somewhere like this, people are witnessing it. That is some bad co-creative energy, right? Clarity is really fascinating when you're talking about spiritual growth. Clarity, you can get clarity where you are today, right? Because you're showing up, you have a lot of experience, you can be in clarity where you are today. What if you want to go to the next level?
Tell us.
You want to be around somebody who's already done that journey, who has a little bit more clarity, a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more experience than you. Because your mind can only rehash, regurgitate, repeat what's in there. So you want to be willing to get new information, right? And these in and of themselves take some action. Then you want to figure out the physical action, right? This is literally, how are you juggling your schedule? What are you committed to for how long? Why are you committed to it? Does it match the target you want overall for your life? If you ever hang out with me a lot, you'll hear many nudges about, what's your mission statement for your life? Are all your choices aligning to it? And if you don't take the time to figure out, you can waste a lot of time and feel a little bit off kilter always because you haven't aligned fully to where you want to head, right? In Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which I reference a lot because it was my spiritual awakening actually, learning spiritual laws. He talks about imagine yourself at your funeral. What would you hear people talking about you, speaking about you, remembering about you? Are you living the life that reflects what you would prefer how others see you?
I like that.
Right? And the way I do it is I say, well, okay, if I was going to meet my Creator tomorrow, if I was dropping dead right now, or within the next day or two, would I be able to meet my Creator and say, oh yeah, I rocked it. It was exhausting, it was hard, it was fulfilling, it was rewarding. What a ride, I'm ready to go because I'm exhausted from it, right? And I wouldn't be able to say that if I didn't have a consistent target. It is impossible to hit successfully and feel fulfilled to a target you have not defined, right? And so I work with a lot of people, and if I can get them to center in on what they're aiming for, it's not as easy as it sounds. We like to think, oh, that's easy, I'm always in clarity. Well, a lot of times you think you're in clarity, but your actions are not aligning to it, right? So that's a really big, important thing. So the what, why, how, and again, we have a cheat sheet for you to make it easy. And so just so you know, this is the spiritual version. This is the, I don't mean it rudely, the Muggle version. This has big,
I'll take that.
right? Big graphic arts, really easy to read.
Wondering what's going on. We have.
Okay, we were all wondering what's going on.
When I get back in there, I will mute them. Sorry, Helen.
That's okay. It's better than me hearing voices all by myself, right? Actually, that is what happened. I was driving here in January for this class, and I was very excited, and I was also loaded on Mucinex 12-hour because I had a really bad cough. And I was driving, I heard clear as day, EFT fundraiser Unity Church. And I said, oh, okay. And so that'll be June 3rd, so we're really excited. So on that note, say you want one action, again, you want to get new information. Well, you know, because you come to Sanctuary here, you come and you're around people who are studying consistently. Right now, Mama Earth is in a huge transformation. So is human consciousness. It's the first time in longer than our human history that the energies are getting lighter. So every action you're taking today, if it's in the old junk, the old way you remember being, the old judgments of others, the lower vibration of old memory before you were at this consciousness today, all these are influencing very quickly, very strongly, how you're able to choose action. So today, last time I took us through getting in clarity, I wanted to talk about the areas that are the stickiest. So say you have a great coach or a great friend, or you've had much success your whole life, and then you come to a place where you're like, why is nothing working? Like, I'm ready to do the work, why is it not working? Why am I not getting the result I desire? So the big ones on that, if you are actually, your beliefs are aligned, you are in clarity of what you want, how to get there, you do have an action plan that's logical and makes sense, and you are being consistent. Or you have the top three and you can't get the up and go, right? So 2 things that can really affect that. One is grief. So grief is the most unusual energetic beast. There is no accepted normal time frame for any specific grief. The work I recommend most often is the Grief Handbook. It's written by James John and Randall Friedman. And it's actually work. You can't do it alone. You can't read it to a friend when you write it. You need to actually do the work and then read it to somebody who can hold a certain energetic field for you. So if you're, or somebody you love, is usually successful in things and they know where they want to go next and they can't get there, grief is usually the one that's holding them back, right? So in the Grief Recovery Handbook, what's interesting is they define grief that doesn't move, right? When you experience a loss, it can be a loss of identity, it can be a loss of a home, a marriage, a friendship, a business, a career, a loved one with 2 legs or 4, it doesn't matter. When you have a loss in your life, there is, if you don't come through it, and it keeps lingering and limiting you so that you can't show up in consistent action, you're looking at uncommunicated emotion, right? And it's a fascinating thing. You don't need the person or the business or the house to hear you. You need it witnessed, you need your emotions witnessed in a higher frequency of love. And so there are trained people to do this. There's a few in Houston, grief recovery people who could listen to you read your letters. Most people, when they do the grief work, this particular book, the timeline is quite shocking to them. They have you do a timeline and you'll see different losses. Now let's talk about losses that, COVID stirred up a lot of grief energy on our planet, past and what happened during COVID.
Is grief, to me, for my reasons, it seems like it might be a little bit associated with regret.
Regret could definitely be under there. Grief will create an opening vibrationally to all emotion that holds you in victim consciousness. And so if you're not, or if you are, well actually it'd be if you are, if you're on a spiritual journey of awakening, there is some cleanup work you're going to want to look at. Otherwise, you're changing beliefs, you're getting in clarity of where you want to go, you're taking right action by even consistently showing up, maybe even with a good teacher or direction guide, and yet you're like, well, where's the result I'm looking for? There can be a lot of things in the way. And so for me, and this is why I'm really excited about this event. Like, I can't wait to meet me after this is over. Because this is about going into a really high frequency and grounding it. And going back into a high frequency and grounding it. And going back into a high frequency and grounding it. So we're going to use tapping to elevate our energy fields in unconditional love and then figure out how to ground it. Right? So grief is uncommunicated emotion, including regret, including guilt, including sadness, including shock, including jealousy. Can you see how all those could tie in? Mm-hmm. And we think of grief as, somebody I love died. Well, no, career change. If you think of moving homes, if you love the home you're in and the life you've had, if you don't have some way of saying goodbye and wrapping up all that joy, you're going to carry a little bit of wonky energy into your next experiences, right? So it's a big spiritual work. It's one of the things I consistently see holding back people on a spiritual journey.
You know that.
Yeah. It's very deep. It's that weird gap space of like 1 foot in form and 1 foot in spirit, which is our calling. And we go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until we build the stamina to step more fully in the spiritual side. Then guess what happens? You go back again. Because this is the nature of this dimension, this plane of existence. Everything goes in cycles. And yet you never go as far back. And it's always, we talked about this last time, it's never to punish you, it's not to trick you. It's always, because you believe in a loving source, a loving creator, it is always to invite you to change more beliefs and get more clarity on what your soul wants to experience here. So sometimes if you're busy, you can be so busy in action that you lose sight of what your spiritual path is, right? You'll get a hard smack. We've all been there, I'm pretty sure, right? It can be health issue. It could be disruption in financially or in relationship. It's never to punish you. It's never about guilt. It's never about blame. It's never about reprimand. It's never about criticism. It's a loving source. It's your soul self trying to wake you up and saying, hey, you're off track. Hey, veer this way. That's not going to take you where you want to go. Right? And so if you're in the humanness of the emotion and the confusion of being human, which is pretty confusing, you might want to get somebody who has more clarity than you. Now, what I find in my own personal journey is if I can be around higher frequency, more truth, more clarity, it helps me along a lot faster, right? So you're talking about these complex bodies. We've got the mental body. Boy, that'll screw with you, won't it? We've got the emotional body. We've got the physical form. We have the energetic body, the field. We have the spiritual body. We also have a karmic body, inherited genetics, inherited memory. In science today, they call it epigenetics, meaning you inherit emotion from your ancestors. Well, look at our human history. That's not really good news, right? And then we want to think about, there's also an egoic body. Ego serves us in an individuated experience. And today, it's so cool on Earth, in my lifetime at least, it's amazing. We can actually evolve the ego to serve us in spirituality. Like come in on time. You know, measuring, well, I meditate every day. Or I am committed to this. Because the ego's job is only ever weigh, measure, and compare.
Wow.
Now, the ego that is not evolving spiritually will have you weigh, measure, and compare in a negative, reprimanding way, a critical way. That we don't want, right? So all these little refinements and ideas. So let's go a little deeper into the human emotional body and grief. So the idea, and it's all ideas, whatever you think, right? Unless it's absolute truth, which we don't have one truth in this dimension. What's true for you at different stages of consciousness is really true for you at the time you believe it. The eternal truth that God is loving and that we can't get it wrong and that we all end back up in oneness, that's an eternal truth that it takes a lot of expansion and spiritual growth and open heart to even apply that in real life, in daily life, right? So what happened is we're born in these forms and it's pretty awful. Can't feed yourself, can't pull a blanket on and get warm. You need care. You're suddenly in a reality where your body can die, you can feel pain, you can be cold, you can be hungry. And we forget what connection is. That's the original grief. And then we will spend many, many lifetimes re-exploring grief at different levels of consciousness over and over and over, not to be punished, not to struggle, not because we screwed up in the last 10 lifetimes, because we're poking at that PTSD in hopes that we'll wake ourselves up and remember.
Stop it, stop it, stop it. I hear you, I'm sorry to hear you.
Right? So it's a big endeavor being in these puny little human forms. It's a tough, tough gig, and it's about to change. We are all, because we've already been doing the foundational work, we're about to find out that we can go a lot faster and a lot easier. Some of the things you might notice is you are going to start having dreams. Memories are going to be coming up, and you'll be like, oh, I wonder what that's about, because they don't feel real bad, but they don't feel great. We're coming into the possibility in human form to feel great, right? Humanity has not yet evolved into happiness. How many truly happy people do you know? It's as a species, we haven't evolved there yet. There is a lot of science. There's a lot of great research on how to be happy, on what happy people do differently than people who aren't happy. If that interests you, learn about it. Get new information in there, right? Pick your target and then go find out who's doing it and how they're doing it and what can you learn and align to and apply. So we're coming into a new era as humans. We are going to be able to embody more spirit. What does that mean? Well, in earth language, in human terms, word symbolism, it means vitality, health, light, happiness, ease and movement, more inexplicable moments of joy. So I would invite you to consider saying, yeah, I want that. Let me make sure that I'm aligned to that goal. Now, the trickiest part, in my opinion, of being human is you do certain things and they work. And then they evolve you to the next level, and now you think the same things will work again. No. And they don't. It's kind of like parenting, you know, if you have a 5-year-old and you get really rockin' awesome at 5-year-olds, they're learning writing, reading, you're so good at, and then they turn 6. Get good at a 6-year-old, then they turn 7, right? I remember my boys and their teenagers, one time they said, can we do this? I'm like, oh, I don't know, I need to think about that. And they're like, what do you mean you don't know? I'm like, well, I never had a teenager before, I gotta think. Like, this is different, right? Well, what if you could take that analogy and apply it to your spiritual growth? It's really tricky, you know, when everybody in this room, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody in this room started because you were tired of feeling bad.
Yep.
Right? Pain motivated to find answers. Right? Got a problem and you want to find a solution. Well, where we're coming now in consciousness is not about being pain motivated. And yet how many people, because they don't know how to go to the next level, will just go create some drama somewhere. Overextend themselves, their money, do something goofy so they're back in pain point because that's familiar to encourage spiritual growth. Right? So this is a huge thing. This is a huge transformation to get unstuck spiritually today when you're not on stable ground yet. Consciousness is really moving. When I use the word when I move the word consciousness, I'm talking about the whole enchilada of your thought system. That means your memories, your unconscious, your subconscious, your conscious mind, your personality, your soul self, and your body, and all the memories and all your genetics. So when I say consciousness, I mean your whole little enchilada you. That's a big concept. So when I started a spiritual journey, that was really dramatic, big trauma. And the tapping really helped me, EFT, right? And I tapped and I tapped and I tapped some more, and I tapped publicly for years with anybody who would show up, and I've tapped with a gazillion clients, and I tapped so much the kids would say, Mom, can you shut the door? Because they'd hear me yelling, I do love and accept myself. and then
I'm acting like this.
Right? It's like, oh. And then, I don't really tap personally anymore because I don't have all this energy to clear. And yet Spirit's guiding me now to utilize tapping of tying in higher frequency to physical form. So what happens if you keep doing the clearing technique? Whether it's tapping or What else? Forgiveness work or journaling. Well, if you keep doing it, guess what your mind has to give you? To clear. Right? So that's where you want to check the beliefs that you've been holding that served you. Man, they got you here. They're amazing beliefs. Do you need to tweak them now?
Yeah.
Is it time to go to the next level of consciousness so that your heart can open even more safely and more joyously right where you are?
Yeah.
Make sense? So those are the big pieces. The grief, because we're all in some PTSD and form of the original idea of separation. And any spiritual journey, it's all about undoing that idea and having an idea that we're one with God, right? Not just when we're in a sanctuary or a chapel or in nature, but 24/7. How do we get one with God?
Tell us, we're here.
So my opinion,
Yeah.
and what I would teach, is that you have to raise the frequency of the form so that you can hold a higher unconditional loving consciousness. It's not the norm here. It's challenging to evolve the human personality mind when it has been entrenched for gazillions of lifetimes in our DNA that there's right and wrong energy. And most of what that looks like is, oh my gosh, if I feel bad, something's wrong, right? And then if you aren't on the spiritual journey, then it means like, and if something's wrong, it's got to be you. It ain't me. So let's make you wrong, right? And then you're never looking further to the belief, what if it's not about right, wrong energy? Well, then what would it be about? That's a big evolution of consciousness. And so do you see how you could be rocking your journey and then the earth starts changing on you? Mass consciousness starts changing on you. Your soul starts talking a little louder. Come on, don't go that way, go this way. It's more like if you're not going to listen, you're going to get smacked hard now, right? I've noticed that if I go into any old patterns of judgment, I immediately have broken something or hurt myself. Trip, it's like I rebound quick now. It's like, woo, pivoting. Oops, that was a slip, right? Can I do it in love, though? One of the big stickiest points is this right-wrong energy. If I feel bad, something's wrong. I'm doing it wrong. What if feeling bad is reminding you, hey, how do I go? Where am I going next? Am I aligned? What new information do I need to pay attention to? How do I want to show up in this? Right? It doesn't mean, so I teach everything's a gift or an invitation. And I had a friend, she had cancer, and she said, but this is a gift, right? I'm like, well, I wouldn't call it a gift. I wouldn't want anybody to give it to me as a gift. What it is, it's an invitation to receive help, to rest more, to receive love that you've been limiting. Because what she wants in life, she's got to expand this receiving. Right? So her busy, I'll do everything energy wasn't letting her go to the next level her soul wanted. So she got laid out and had to receive help.
And I don't even apologize for asking for stopping you right now. So there are times when I need to ask questions.
And preferably from somebody who's holding a broader consciousness than you are. Right?
Okay.
Somebody who is aligned to what you want. Guys, we have so many great teachers. I mean, look at YouTube. Like, is that the bomb? Right? We have books, we have YouTube, we have video, we have audio. We have it all. Study teachers who are giving you what you're aiming for. The clarity of what you're aiming for. Right? Be sure, for me, I always prayed it. Because I'm very enthusiastic, you might have noticed, and I'm curious. And so I would be the one who hops from teacher and workshop to workshop because I want to dabble in everything, right? And then I realized that's not going to fulfill my purpose on earth. So I had a rule, still have this rule, is that when I resonate with a teacher or a teaching, I hunker down and I get seriously consistent in my action.
Gotcha.
until Spirit tells me next, right? Dabbling will give you inconsistent results. Now, when I say dabbling, I don't just mean in teachers and spirituality and, I mean, think of meditation. There's like 80 different kinds, right? You might have to figure out which one works for you. And then you get masterful at it. Well, what's next so you can go to the next level, right? So it's again, the analogy of parenting is just tricky. It's tricky. Or think of even earth analogies. I remember I used to suffer, right? It must have still been tapping then. When I had to get a new phone, that was like the worst. It's like, oh my gosh, now I got to learn it different, and and just tension, and now I don't have that stress anymore. And also, I got a new phone recently. It's red, which I think is the bomb. Oh, I wonder where my phone is. It's not even silenced. And it's different. You swipe, there's not the thing. I don't know, sometimes the camera's on and I don't know why. It's very interesting. And yet I don't have that level of stress. Okay, so I'm ready to evolve with technology. That's the way you want to look at your spirituality. If it's not fulfilling you as much, then you're just missing a little bit of information and a little bit of follow through to get you to the next level, right? So are we gonna, is anything on earth ever a one and done?
That's what I want to know.
Nope.
Oh, man.
No? Right? What if, is it if you become enlightened, is it a one and done? No. Because then your heart's so open and you hold so much light, you got to figure out how you can help others and love others and be in the human experience differently. You don't quit learning. It's the nature of being here, right? Some people call it school. I don't really like that reference, which is funny since I'm a teacher. I love to teach. But I don't like the reference of school because I didn't enjoy traditional school. So I like the idea of it's a game. Teach me the rules. Let me develop the skill set so I can have a good time doing it, right? Because if spirituality isn't giving me the joy I'm seeking, I'll just go back to being a red hot mess and drama. Right? I want that fulfillment. I want that intensity in light instead of in mucking around with struggle. So you need to know, what is it you're aiming for? What do you want? What do you want to know about yourself when this earth suit, this meat suit is done? What do you want to know about you at this transitional time on earth? It's an exciting time. And once you figure that clarity out, you want to make sure you're fully aligned to it. Remember I mentioned all the different bodies. Are you mentally aligned? Are you spiritually aligned? Are you energetically aligned? Are you emotionally aligned? You can see where there's a big invitation to get help from other people in all these different moving parts, right? The most simple things are never easy. Agreed? Just choose love. How's that going? Right? Hit or miss. So the simplicity of it is there. Do you know why it's always so not easy to do what makes sense? Because we're complex. Because you're not doing it at one level. So you have to bring all these crazy levels together, right? You've heard the expression, it's like herding cats when you're working with diverse people, especially spiritual people, just saying. And well, it's kind of like that for us. We are like, my personality saying, let's do this. And my soul self saying, let's do this. And energetically, I'm just like, I need a break. And emotionally, I'm like, no, I'm still back in that old memory. I'm expecting this. It's a big calling to bring ourselves into a cohesive, authentic congruence with what we want next. Make sense?
Yes. So is it wrong to take a break? You feel like you need to take a break?
You will always have to take a break on a spiritual journey.
Do you acknowledge that?
I do, yeah. And so when you're on a break, what's really happening? So remember, we kind of use this analogy, right? Yeah, you're integrating spiritual frequency, spiritual truth at a cellular and physical, personality, all levels of mind, while you just end up being a little more human. The difference is when you take a break, you don't revert back into fear-based thinking. You just tend to watch TV, read books, lay around, drink margaritas, want to be on the beach and say, what's going on, right? And then you get back into a cycle where you're hungry. Spiritually hungry, studying, meditating, hours and hours all day, and then you'll tap out again and you'll have to take a break. Right? And so everything in this dimension, everything on earth is created the same way. So whenever you're wondering about spirituality, just find an analogy and form. Right? So if you're, a farmer, the soil has to take a break. If you grow a business, there are cycles of where you're problem solving, and then there's some nice cruising. Money's coming in, things are good, and then dang it, technology changes again. Now you got to go through that growth again, right? Everything on earth symbolizes all the same formulas for success. Right? Anybody have any questions?
No, I got it all.
And in this moment you do, right? And sometimes I've got it all, and then other times I have to ask somebody like, okay, I'm not synced up. What's going on, right? So I will share this story with you. So it's my first book signing, and I used to have stinking thinking on that because I'm like, it's not about this personality, Helen. And by the way, don't you love my wings?
I see.
That's my friend my friend Doyle Ward gave me this. I love it. And so it's like, no, I just like teaching. I like doing the work. I like hunkering down. I like helping people. I don't want it to be about me. So I had a few beautiful, lovely people help coach me out of that concept. So I was thinking about it. I've just never wanted to sign my name and being recognized like that. Because first of all, I don't even think the books are mine. Spirit came through, said, write 3 books. I'm like, what? Okay. And I paid a ghostwriter because I'm not a writer. I'm not an author. And then a friend of mine wouldn't let me put her name on the book, but she and I hashed out, tell me where you're stuck. And boy, did we hash it out. Is that really true? What examples? I mean, it was quite the work. The journal, that's channeling. I didn't write that. And so I'm not really an author, so I feel kind of funny signing.
Helen channels, by the way.
And especially when I'm tapping. And so I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, do your what, why, how for book signing after I got new information, new perspective from other people, right? So my what is book signing? My why. To be in the exchange of joy on this journey, right? How? Well, eye contact, heart to heart. Me receiving by having people help me, right? People are gonna write the name so I don't have to stress over, some people spell your name and it's so fast, you're like, what was that? Right? I don't want any of that. I just wanna look and make sure I write nicely. Well, it won't be nice handwriting, but spelled correctly. And what other how? Pre-pave it. Open my heart and think of it. Fall in love with that people are on this journey with me.
Wow.
And then, are you up for my how successful? It's a little woo-woo. It's kind of out there. It's that I would know the enjoyment of God reflecting God to God's self in the exchange of unity, of heart, in an energetic communication, right? So you'd say, well, how will you measure that? Like, I'll be lit. I'll be glowing. One of these days, I think I'm going to even levitate, but we'll see.
Helen,
Yes.
so when I wrote my 3 books, I was just excited. I didn't do any of that. I was excited to share and all of that, and I didn't do that. So what's your take on the fact that I didn't do any of that?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So here's the thing, guys. This is not a secret formula. Every time you have a result that you're pleased with, you did this unconsciously.
Wow.
You didn't just write a book that started on real estate, went to pet chicken raising, and then into agriculture. You had a what? You had a target audience. You knew what you were writing. You knew your why. It gave you joy to do it, and you could not do it.
Yeah.
You knew your how. You did get an editor. You did figure out how to print. You did figure out how to do a cover, how to get it out to people. And you knew what success was for you because you lit up when you spoke it, right?
I like that.
So yeah, with my books, my success was just I was told to do them. And so when the earth shut down and I couldn't get these books out, I didn't suffer at all, right? That makes no logical sense except for I was fully aligned.
Wow.
Because we spent a lot of money getting books in print, the ghostwriter, publishing package on the one of them. That's a lot of money, and then nothing in return. 3 years, I can say that in 10 seconds, but when you're living 3 years, that could have been a pain point. Just wasn't, because I had been practicing this purposefully. And I so trust when Spirit talks to me now.
Got you.
Don't always like it, totally trust it.